Before we get into this video, I want to thank Displate for sponsoring this video. Displate make high quality metal posters. I'm so happy to be working with this company. If you're interested in picking up some metal posters of your own and you would like to support the channel, be sure to click the link in the description to take you to Displate's website, and also be sure to use code BILBSY at checkout for 15% off. Enjoy the video. Some of you are about to hate me. It's okay, I'm ready for it. My Hero One's Justice 2 is my most anticipated anime game of 2020. I live and breathe My Hero Academia, and I love fighting games, even arena fighters, despite not being the most competitive thing in the world. Usually I spend a lot more time putting together prediction lists, whether it be for my own ego or just because I enjoy it. I like seeing if I can get my list to be as accurate as possible. I was pretty proud of my 9 out of 10 for the base roster, and that's why I spent half a month on that base roster prediction list. For that prediction list, I spent a few days reading ahead on the manga, paying attention to every single little detail I could, coming up with my list. Then I privately shared that list with a bunch of other people, and I got them to argue against it, so I could hear the best arguments possible against my prediction list, and then I adjusted it as I went. I'm missing a couple details in there, but the basic gist of it is that that list went through rigorous scrutiny before I ever showed it to you in a video. But this DLC prediction list video has not gone through that same rigorous treatment. I simply don't have the time to prep like I normally would for a prediction video. The game comes out in less than a week, and I don't want the data miners to be able to scoop up the DLC list before my prediction list video. So I'm going to say this now. I am happy with this list, but I'm far less confident than I would be in a normal prediction list video where I can spend much more time putting it through multiple iterations and kind of like a self-scrutiny process. With that said, let's jump into my One's Justice 2 DLC prediction list video. If you missed it, 5 character slots have been soft confirmed. There was an Amazon listing for a DLC season pass which described exactly 5 DLC characters. I'm guessing this is going to be the official number because it was listed directly from Bandai. They weren't supposed to leak that information early, but regardless, it came from them, so I'm assuming it's official. So we have 5 character spots to work with. Keep in mind that I'll be thinking about this from a business perspective. Again, I'm trying to predict these characters. I'm not necessarily trying to put out a list of characters that I would like to see. I'll do a wishlist video sometime before launch as well. I'm also going to be using a specific assumption to make a couple of my guesses. The assumption is that they're going to be planning for a One's Justice 3, a One's Justice 4, however long it takes for My Hero to end. I'm using this assumption because it's an easy way to explain the prior picks for DLC. So for example, I would imagine a big reason they chose Inasa in the DLC for One's Justice 1 was to kind of future-proof One's Justice 2. What I mean by that, we now know that characters won't be receiving major updates between One's Justice games. Even characters like Kirishima, who in theory should have got a pretty major update, didn't get any updates outside of visuals. So making Inasa a DLC character in One's Justice 1 was kind of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. From a development standpoint, it gives you a DLC character to sell people, and it also means you're going to have to develop 1 less character in the next One's Justice game, because he was already designed to fit that mold. Similar things can be said for Shoot Style Deku, who was also kind of DLC in the prior game. Endeavor doesn't exactly fit into that category because he was not needed for the story of One's Justice 1 or One's Justice 2. He was probably just added because he's an incredibly popular character and easy to sell people. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but if a character would be future-proofing for another game, I would consider them slightly more likely than the average character. To extend that logic even further, I think that might be the reason we got Mineta and Mina in the base roster of One's Justice 2, despite them not playing a major role in the story. Personally, I believe the reason we got Mina and Mineta over any other non-story relevant character is for that same future-proofing reason. If they develop Mina and Mineta now, they don't need to worry about developing them in the next game when they're going to need them for the joint training arc. Instead, they can focus that same development they would have spent on Mina and Mineta on somebody else or something else. Using that same thought process, the first character on my DLC lineup is going to be Hawks. He's an incredibly important character and an incredibly popular character. Even if you don't know who he is yet because you don't read the manga, you might have seen him in the recent movie, and they will absolutely need to develop the character for the potential One's Justice 3 because of course he's used in the upcoming season of the anime, and his moveset doesn't have any major spoilers in it outside of what his own quirk does, so developing him now as DLC saves some development resources for the future. Next up, I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to add 2 different characters in one slot because I think it could go either way. That's Monoma and Kendo. One of these 2 characters could be representing Class B, which would be a nice addition to the game, and of course it is future-proofing for the joint training arc as well, which would of course be in a potential Once Justice 3. My next prediction uses a bit of a different method. We're kind of moving away from the future-proofing prediction method. There was recently a news scan for Once Justice 2 and it revealed a lot of information we already knew about. There wasn't anything new to cover, so I didn't make a video on it. The scan was basically saying, alright, you know everything, the game comes out next week, I hope to see you there. That type of thing, right? But there's an important detail that I don't think a lot of people notice because I haven't seen anybody talking about it. At the bottom of the scan, you'll see that My Hasume is used to represent the options menu in the game. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about this, but if you look closely, you'll notice that it is a 3D model. 3D models aren't easy to put together. I wouldn't expect them to put together a 3D model for a random options menu thing. In fact, in the previous game, they didn't. They had 3D models in the main menu of the previous game, besides for the menu where they had My Hasume. It was just 2D art there. I'm assuming it's because they didn't have the resources to make models and do everything crazy like they had with the other menus, but if they went out of their way to make a 3D model this time around, perhaps My Hasume is going to be DLC. It is possible I'm reaching here a little bit. I do like My Hasume a lot as a character, and it's possible there's some type of bias going on in my head because I would really like to see that character as DLC, but I do actually think this is really solid logic. I haven't seen them do this before. I don't think they've ever made a 3D model that was not also a playable character, or at the very least, if they have, it would be a pretty rare exception, like a character like Eri, for example. So yeah, I'm going all in on that prediction and saying My Hasume. Another character that might seem a tad bit out of the blue is Ryuko Tatsuma. I'm aware that this one is a tiny bit odd. Call it a hunch, call it whatever you want. I just don't think that Biking is going to pass up the opportunity to make such a unique character in an arena fighter. She's a dragon. How is that not going to sell well? And she also does play a pretty big role in Season 4. It was not a combat role, so she wasn't necessarily needed for the base game, but if you sell her for DLC, I think that would be incredibly effective because there's going to be a lot of fans who watch Season 4 and then they play the game and they're going to be like, where's that cool dragon lady that was there the entire time through Season 4, but she's not in the game? Well, here you go. Now she's DLC. I just think it's an effective marketing strategy and probably will result in quite a few sales. So I'll put Ryuko Tatsuma up as one of my predictions. And my final character is a character that I think most of you are going to be pretty upset with if it turns out to be right, mainly because it's not Gentle, but he is from the Gentle arc. I'm talking about Air Force Deku. Now, I know it's another Deku, and that's not exactly what some of us want, but I think that's the exact reason he's going to be DLC. Why not sell another version of Deku? You'll need to develop him anyway for Once Justice 3, because you're going to have to cover the Gentle arc in Once Justice 3. The attire alone is enough to get people to purchase it, and it's kind of a way of tying in the Gentle arc. If there's any character you're thinking of, like for example Gentle, and you're saying, why wasn't he on the list? I don't think any of us have the time for me to sit here and explain every single character and why they're not on this list, but I will address Gentle because I think that's a particular one that people are going to be surprised by not being on this list. I think Gentle's too big and too important to sell as a DLC character when he could very well be a selling point for Once Justice 3. The way that the Once Justice games have worked so far is they cover the first half of the anime. What I mean by that is Once Justice 1 is like the My Hero Academia Season 3 game, but it doesn't cover the provisional license exam arc. It stops after All for One. Once Justice 2 stops after Overhaul in Season 4, and does not cover Gentle. I think we're going to continue to see that trend. So for example, Season 5 of the anime, based on what I can tell, and based on conversations that I've had with people who have read even further than me in the manga, the My Villain Academia arc should be the end of Season 5. If that's the case, I would expect Once Justice 3 to end at the joint training arc, which would set up the other version of Deku, and Shinso, and those would be like the big selling points of the game, which I think is enough to sell the game, right? But there's still that second half of Season 4 that I think would get chucked into Once Justice 3. Of course, I'm talking about Gentle. Anyway, there you go. That's my Once Justice 2 DLC prediction list. Let me know where your opinion differs. I'd love to hear all about it in the comment section below. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Please go check out displate.com. Their link is in the description. Be sure to use my link or else any purchase you make won't support the channel. I hope you're excited about One's Justice 2. It's right around the corner, so of course I am. I'll be sure to get out that wishlist video as soon as possible. Of course, I'll get it out before the release of the game or else the data mine's going to happen and we're all going to know the DLC characters probably. My name's Bilbzy, and I'll be sure to catch you in the next one.